Welcome back to the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent. Detroit made techno. It was born in black brilliance, forged in sweat, steel, and speaker stacks. The early days were gritty, raw, and unapologetically underground. Raves in asbestos-riddled warehouses. DJ booths balanced on plywood. Sweaty bodies packed into buildings with no heat, no permits, just purpose. The Packard Plant, Mack and Bellevue, the Eastown Theatre, these were places the city gave up on. But the music briefly revived them. Bass shook the dust loose. Rhythm fought its way through the speakers. It was joy, communion, and resistance, but on a subterranean level. Then came a turning point. The first Detroit Electronic Music Festival in the year 2000. What's known today as Movement. For once, an underground scene had risen to the surface, and slowly, the world took note. Detroit, the birthplace of techno, was getting its due. But not completely. Even now, it's hard to make a living here as an electronic music artist, and many leave. So what will it take to change that? First, we'll hear from John Collins of Underground Resistance, a group built from the city's renegade spirit and its refusal to be erased. Then later in the show, we'll meet Ember Lafayama, a rising producer, singer, and DJ. She's building community and carving a new path where it all began. We're talking history, hustle, and the scaffolding Detroit still needs. And we want to hear from you. Detroit gave the world techno, but is Detroit Techno City? The number is 313-577-1019. Now let's turn to DJ and producer John Collins of Underground Resistance. John, welcome back to the Metro.
Good morning, Robin. It's great to be back.
So, John, as we heard in the last segment from Tia Graham, techno was created in Detroit by the godfather of techno, Juan Atkins, along with Derek May, Kevin Master Reese Saunderson, and Eddie Fowlkes. Now, I want to briefly talk about the underground parties where these pioneers were playing, along with the second wave of innovators like Carl Craig, Jeff Mills, and Mad Mike Banks. I remember what it took to go to these parties. It meant calling a number on a flyer, meeting at a map point. You'd get a square scrap of paper with a few directions scribbled on it, and then you would drive in the dark until you could feel the bass from a nondescript dark building. John, take us back. What made those early days of techno in Detroit so singular, so full of soul and intention?
Well, first of all, in regards to those underground parties that you just spoke of, even going through all of that with the getting the flyer with the telephone number to get the address and going to this building, it was just like really exciting and you never knew what to expect. And as you stated earlier, you can feel the bass when you're getting there, and also the fact that we would invade these buildings. That work. We would just take the building, I guess, more or less.
Yes.
And that earlier that day, decorate or do whatever you could to clean it up because they were very dirty. And people would arrive and dance all night. And by the time we left, the police may be there, but we were already gone. So it was not on the radar. So which was very, very underground. But of course, and to me, Detroit is still Techno City. It will always be Techno City. So it's not like what will it take to be Techno City again? Because it started here, and that is ours, and it belongs to us that we shared with the world. And the founders, as you spoke, Juan Atkins, a godfather, Derek May, Kevin Saunderson and Juan Atkins also played a lot of these underground parties early on.
Yeah.
So even once they started doing more producing and releasing music, they would always come back to Detroit and play, even though they were playing overseas, blah, blah, whatever, and maybe probably not getting paid as much in Detroit
right.
for a number of reasons as what, they or we get paid overseas. But I think that most DJs, regardless of their popularity, they want to play at home.
I wonder if we could stay in the early days for a moment, and then we're going to speed up into the present, and we're going to talk about Techno City and the monetization of it as well. But do you remember one party, one moment that you feel like really captures what it was to be part of that underground movement?
God, there were several. It's really hard to pick one. I do remember journeying to the hardcore. I think that was Kevin Saunderson's party, I believe, which was actually I think it was at Cobo Hall, if I remember correctly. Maybe not. Maybe it wasn't there, but it was the party, one of the parties for me that really captured exactly what you described. And of course, going to the Packard Plant, which had phenomenal parties.
But you'd have like some black boogers after that.
And what is a black booger?
Like snot in your nose would be it would be brown because you were breathing in some really dirty,
I guess we didn't even think about that.
Air.
It was all about the music. We didn't even think about that. Yeah, you're right. A lot of people probably got sick and have respiratory ailments today. But no, we didn't. It was all about the music, the scene, the underground. Everybody got along. We were there for the music, this phenomenal music that was coming out of Detroit.
Why Detroit? What made this city, its politics, its sound, its people, the place that birthed techno?
I think because of what Detroit had gone through is one of the reasons, and the producers who were also, the founders who were influenced also by Kraftwerk and jazz and gospel out of Detroit, so forth and so on. It was a different breed of producers who had a different approach, which it just happened to become this futuristic type of music, or Afrofuturism as well, utilizing machines, and it was just the right time for something different. And I think it kind of shifted the focus, for Detroit through this music.
And when we think about it being the right time for something different, that brings to mind underground resistance, which brought all of that together, the music, the politics, the message. Talk about what makes underground resistance different from another music collective, and what has it been trying to say to the world?
Yes. Well, underground resistance founded by Mike Banks and Jeff Mills, known as the Wizard in Detroit.
That's right.
The approach was totally different. You are produces very, very good music, but also in the music, we drop knowledge.
Yeah. And
we're not dropping knowledge about a lot of different things. It could be discrimination. And eventually we did a video and a single on the Flint water crisis. It's about educating people getting together, also recognizing marginalized people, and standing up for their rights and different people around the world in Detroit.
Why is that such a big part of the music and the music scene?
Why is
the notion of resistance and of standing up for marginalized people. Why has that been so central?
Well, I think is that what we have to do, and I think that as Black people, we've always resisted. There's been some sort of resistance, not necessarily through music. And I go back to slavery. There was resistance back then. So it's something that's always happened in the Black community, and this music was created by Black people for Black people, because Black people are the first ones who embraced it in Detroit. And not only older people, but the younger people as well. So it spoke to all generations, I think.
You've said, John, that artists had to leave Detroit, though, to survive. Could you tell us about a moment when you or someone you know faced that choice?
Well, personally, for myself, I never left. I didn't want to leave. And also, I wasn't touring as much as some of the other DJs or producers. But, if you have a family, and you can make more money overseas, then why wouldn't you want to do it as long as you don't lose yourself? Because I've seen DJs who eventually move over there and they come back a little different.
Yeah.
Depends on the individual. And it's all about, I guess, also, spreading the music, of course, but it's also a financial thing. You want to be paid for your services. And I think that's one of the reasons why some of them leave. And eventually, I think they're coming back. There, of course, Juan Atkins never left. Eddie Fowlkes never left. Derek May never left. I mean, they always, even though they travel, they always maintain a residence in Detroit. And some just move completely.
What would it take for more artists to stay and thrive here today? I mean, in other words, why do you think that we don't pay people well here when it comes to electronic music, despite the fact that Detroit is the center of it all, that it is the heartbeat and the pulse of electronic music?
Yes, it's getting better, but I think people or even the city not even recognizing what this music is all about and what it has done for the world. And it's just like, oh, that's techno. Then a lot of people don't even know what techno is in Detroit. So it's a constant educational thing. But it's just I think, realizing what this music is and how important it is to the world, and then to recognize its value. And it also, eventually will bring money back to Detroit. Let's take the festival, for example. So, it's about embracing it more.
We're talking about Detroit techno, its storied past, and its future. Ahead of the Movement Festival opening this weekend, our guest is DJ and producer John Collins of Underground Resistance, and we want to hear from you. Detroit gave the world techno, but is Detroit Techno City? John Collins, for one, says absolutely it is. The number is 313-577-1019. We do have a caller on the line, Joe from Royal Oak. Thanks for calling the Metro. Is Detroit Techno City?
Well, yeah, definitely Techno City. But as I said when I called, everybody steals it from us, like in many things. It was stated, hey, people got to leave a lot of times to make money or be recognized or whatever. I mean, not just techno, you could take any genre. I mean, think of Jack White. You can think of a lot of the rock and rollers, people that had to leave town to make some bucks. And you can go back into the big bands. The guys, how many Detroiters were on Johnny Carson's big band?
So lots of examples, Joe. I want to turn back to John Collins. Joe, thank you so much for calling the Metro. Would you say, has there been some pilfering here?
Well, I think, he's absolutely right in that, a lot of, regardless of the genre, people, musicians, vocalists had to go overseas because they had paid more money. Sure. You go back, Josephine Baker, was accepted in
France.
Before the United States. And he said, I don't know if he used the word steal it from us, the music, but I think, the music is shared, but it's also being appropriated.
Yeah.
So that, to me, there are people in Berlin who think that techno was created in Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
And have no knowledge that it came from Detroit. Berlin's a different type of city. A lot of transplants there from other places.
Absolutely, including Detroit.
Yes. But, it's there's several billion dollar industry, techno in Berlin. So Yeah, it's about people are appropriating it. So it's not necessarily that they're stealing it. And I guess you could say stealing, but when you try to claim something that is yours that isn't,
Yeah.
that's the difference.
I mean, we know that there are producers all over the world who have built on the Detroit sound, and they're very quick to admit that. I'm thinking about Laurent Garnier, for example.
Laurent Garnier?
Yeah, a French producer and DJ who has very much borrowed the strings and the synths and the melodic sounds that came out of Detroit. But I don't think that's someone who has been shy to acknowledge Detroit's influence.
Well, Laurent doesn't acknowledge the influence. He does. So
Yeah,
he's been here many, many times. He's been to
Yeah.
our museum many times. And there are a lot of producers, very famous producers or DJs, who do acknowledge it.
Yeah.
So once again, it's like I said, where you are, we try to in our music make those points. We try to make those available to people as well.
But interestingly, even when it comes to the artists who have been influenced by Detroit and they came up in other places like Laurent Garnier, it can never really quite be Detroit.
Right.
Because there is something to the sound of Detroit techno made in Detroit that cannot be replicated anywhere else.
But I think part of it is, first of all, they don't or did not have the same influences that the founders had when they created this music. Of course, I stated before, techno is jazz, it's gospel, it's R&B, it's a little house. House is also an influence of techno music, and also in politics. It's political. It's radical. It shakes up the system. So no, they did not have those same influences. So of course, the music I think would be a little different if you're living in London,
Right.
making techno or house or whatever. It might be a little different. So it would lack that soul.
I want to go back to the phones for just a moment to Juliet in Detroit. Juliet, in 30 seconds here, is Detroit Techno City?
Absolutely, without a doubt. Techno is not only a genre of music, a musical structure form, but most importantly, it is an emotion. It is an emotion that was created from a time when the city was going through turmoil, and it was created out of desperation and inspiration. The machines took the jobs, and the people were in desperation. But at the same time, they heard these machines, and these machines are the same inspiration that came out of the desperation.
Juliet, thank you so much for calling the Metro and for weaving that history together in a very articulate way. We have another caller on the line I want to get to. Michael in Detroit. Michael, in 30 seconds, is Detroit Techno City?
Detroit is Techno City. Unfortunately, the mainstreaming of the music drifted away, which is how it got more so overseas. When I was growing up, you heard house mixes and techno mixes by some of the biggest and baddest names in the genre right here on local radio, and you no longer hear that.
Oh, well, you do on WDET. If you tune in on, let's say, a Wednesday night, you're going to hear one of the superstars of Detroit techno right now, and that's Wajid. So I would encourage you to listen to The Boulevard, 8 to 10 p.m. And I will stop now with a little bit of that teasing. John Collins, we see the city and corporations using Techno City now as a brand, but a brand isn't a scene. What's the gap between the celebration and the support?
Well, the gap, also, first of all, they're using techno because they know that it's a marketing tool that's very popular, which might bring them more business, and they may not even know what the music is all about, but through research they say, well, we need to do this. Once again, they just need to realize and learn more about this music, the history of it, and really, really, really embrace it, more so than just using it as a marketing tool.
What's one thing Detroit institutions or funders could do tomorrow to better support artists who live and work here?
Well, make more money available. Clubs can pay more DJs more money, and sometimes that's not possible. Make more grants or available to artists to do more producing or whatever venture you might have in art, musically. Those are just a couple of things I can think of right offhand.
As we think about what needs to happen next in order to support electronic music artists, we have seen this huge influx of interest in people who are becoming DJs and using software because it has become a lot more accessible. And as you and I have discussed, it's not like solely using vinyl where you have to match beats and lug crates of records around. You can do a lot of that beat matching with software. But at any rate, I'm wondering, what do you want the next
Can I
generation?
just say one thing
Yes, please.
About beat matching?
Yes.
So on turntables, you could not press a button
Right.
to synchronize your music.
That's right.
It's a totally different feeling when you're using turntables, or even on CDJ. You don't have to push that sync button. You can. It's like you're doing it yourself. The machine is not. You're not totally being absorbed by the machine to do
Right.
everything for you. And that's the best feeling in the world. And if you don't learn how to do that, you're missing out on that feeling, and it's actually you doing the real performance. So, and your next question is, I just forgot my...
No, that was beautiful. Thank you for interjecting with that. What do you want the next generation of Detroit artists to remember about where this music came from?
Well, I think that a lot of them, because I talked to a lot of up-and-coming younger DJs and mentor, have done their homework, and they know about the history. They respect the elders, or the elders or the veterans, and because some of them, you're like, oh, it's our time now. You need to go sit down. But no, Jeff Mills did a really interesting interview, and I just heard a clip that he said age is actually an asset for a DJ because you bring in your experience, your knowledge, not only of how to use the equipment, but of the music. Mm-hmm. And you can go back and pull something out that younger people probably could not do. And he said it's actually an asset, and you should never feel threatened by. And mad respect to up-and-coming DJs. I'm not being critical at all, but maybe this is out to more veteran DJs. You should check out that interview by Jeff Mills, and he was absolutely on point.
Well, you can draw from a much more expansive musical vocabulary, musical library in your mind. Yes. The more years you've been on this earth, the more that you've listened to. In the last minute that we have here, John Collins, you've gone from spinning in forgotten warehouses to teaching at Northwestern to curating museum exhibits. What does it feel like to watch this music become history while still living it?
Oh, it's phenomenal. I mean, I can't even explain the feeling because I'm actually living and feeling these endeavors, or assisting and curating museums while I'm here. I never dreamed that I would even be doing any of this from being a DJ. Now, back in my day, DJs made $45 a night. So come a long way, baby, as they say. So just to be a part of it, I'm really grateful and humbled that I have the opportunity to share my knowledge with people, and the fact that people want to hear me, which is awesome. And I'm considered an expert in the field of history of techno, and I travel all around the world doing panels and workshops as well, in addition to DJing.
Thank you for sharing your expertise with us on the Metro on WDET. DJ, producer, Detroit techno advocate, and educator, John Collins of Underground Resistance. Thank you so much for joining us on the Metro.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, if Detroit made techno, what does it mean for the next generation to carry that legacy forward? We'll hear from an artist making her movement debut, DJ Ember LaFiamma, on what it means to rise up in the city where it all began. And we want to hear from you. Detroit gave the world techno, but is Detroit Techno City? The number is 313-577-1019. This is the Metro on WDET. Stay with us.